best friends, and welcome back to another video. You can't really see it in the frame, but to my right there is 3 stacks of books. I have not done a book haul in what feels like months. I honestly can't even remember the last time I did a book haul, and that is because I've been trying to use my local and free resources like my library. I've been trying to read what I have and not buy more, and I've been trying not to feed into the problem that is overconsumption. As we all know, I am a chronic mood reader, and I feel like my mood is just changing a lot lately. I'm wanting to more venture into the personally lesser explored genres of literature. I have my comfort zone when it comes to reading just like everybody else, but I don't really want to be confined to that comfort zone. I really want to explore more, want to experiment more. I just feel like there's so much out there that I don't want to stay in my comfort zone just because it's what I'm used to, you know? So there is no theme, rhyme, or reason to any of these books in these stacks. I pretty much just picked out what looked intriguing, things that have been recommended to me, things that I might like. I did still follow my book buying rules. Rule number 1 being that it has to be a 4-star plus rating prediction. Rule number 2, it being by an author that I already know and love. Rule number 3, a continuation of a series that I already know and love. So it has to follow one of these 3 rules, or the 4th one, which is an exception, and that is if a loved one had recommended it to me or said that I might really like it. So all these books follow one of those 4 rules, if not multiple of them. I'm gonna reorganize these book stacks into genre, because when talking about books that I've recently bought, I do want to talk about them in genre so it doesn't feel as random. So these first 2 books I'm going to be talking about don't really fit in any like stack because they're kind of on their own. And that first one is How's Your Soul by Judah Smith. This is a Christian nonfiction book. I'm just gonna read the little sentence on the back, and that says, sharing his own often humorous mistakes and foibles, Judah offers a helping hand as we find our way through the emotional roller coaster of life to discover the soul healing essentials rooted in what he calls the soul's only true home, God himself. I really want to start incorporating at least one nonfiction into every month's TBR, and this is one that my church was reading recently. So I bought that at my church. And then the next one that doesn't really fit in like a specific stack is Anne of Green Gables, and this is I think technically it's a classic. Honestly, don't really know what this is about. All I know is that Anne is like an orphan. This is very like cute, cozy, countryside type of read. Honestly, this cover is why I bought it, and I really want to do a video where I read classics for the first time. I just love this cover. It's just so adorable. Okay, and then I'm going to go in the next smallest section that I have, and that is my middle grade and graphic novel stack. So if you saw one of my previous videos where I go to Portland with the book girlies, I did get Howl's Moving Castle, and this is, I think it's technically a middle grade, but it's like borderline YA middle grade. This follows our main character Sophie, and Sophie has the great misfortune of being the eldest of 3 daughters, destined to fail miserably should she ever leave home to seek her fate. But when she unwittingly attracts the ire of the Witch of the Waste, Sophie finds herself under a horrid spell that transforms her into an old lady. Her only chance at breaking it lies in the ever-moving castle in the hills, the Wizard Howl's castle. To untangle the enchantment, Sophie must handle the heartless Howl, strike a bargain with the fire demon, and meet the Witch of the West. I keep saying the Witch of the West! The Witch of the Waste head on. Along the way, she discovers that there's far more to Howl and herself than first meets the eye. This just sounds so cute, so cozy. This sounds like a really, really good fall read, which I will be putting out my fall TBR very soon. The next one that I got while I was in Portland is Greenwild. This book just literally reminds me of myself. So like if there could ever be like a book that just like looks like you, feels like you, like it would be this one for me. First of all, just tell me that's not me in the cover. The cat, the overalls, the scarf, the hair. Like this book could literally be written about me. This is also a middle grade, and this one follows our main character Daisy Thistledown. She is on the run. Her mother has been keeping big glittering secrets, and now she has vanished. 11-year-old Daisy knows it's up to her to find Ma, but she's been hunted by someone determined to stop her from discovering the truth. The chase will lead her through a hidden doorway into another world, a place that's bursting with magic and enchantment. This is the Greenwild. Full of astonishing natural wonders, this land of green magic seems too strange to be real. But Daisy quickly realizes that it holds the key to finding her mother, and that someone wants to destroy it. Daisy must band together with a botanical genius, a boy who I'm giggling like reading the synopsis because it just sounds so fun. A boy who can talk with animals, and a cat with an attitude to uncover the truth about who she really is. Only then can she channel the power that will change her whole world and save the Greenwild itself. This just sounds so good. So I'm really hoping that I love it as much as I think I'm going to. And there's like some art in it, which I thought was absolutely adorable. So very excited for that one. And then the next one that I'm also very excited for is The Moth Keeper, and this is one that I also just recently got on my Portland trip. This is going to be my first graphic novel that I have ever read. The synopsis says, being the Moth Keeper is a great honor. Anya is finally taking her place as protector of the moon moths, the luminous creatures and enable the night flower to bloom, and the night village needs the flower to thrive. Being the moth keeper is a great responsibility. Night after night, it is lonely in the desert, with only one lantern for light. Still, Anya is eager to prove her worth, to show her thanks to her friends and her village, but is it worth the cost? And yet something isn't right. What happens when Anya glimpses the one thing that could destroy what she's meant to protect, the only thing she has secretly longed for her whole life? I got this A because it looks like just the most perfect cozy fall read, but also just like the art in this book is so pretty. I love the colors, I love the vibe, and I'm just really excited to get into it. And just graphic novels in general. Okay, so the next smallest stack that I have is my fiction stack. So the first one I'll be talking about is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. If you saw one of my more recent videos, I did read this one. This one is a Japanese translated fiction. It pretty much just follows these 4 different characters with 4 different stories, and they are all in this coffee shop who, according to like local legend, people say it can like take you back in time. So the whole like theme of the book is what would you change if you could travel back in time. The next one I have, I didn't really know what genre to put this in because it technically fits like YA mystery, but it also is technically YA fiction. That is The Grandest Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is JLB's newest, I think, like installment of like the Inheritance Games world. This one, I'm pretty sure you need to read the Inheritance Games before you read this one to have like the best reading experience, but I don't think you necessarily like have to understand what's going on. Once I read it, I'll probably be able to tell you more about that, but it follows characters that are in, I believe, the Brothers Hawthorne and just the Inheritance Games in general, and I think there's a few new characters that are introduced. Possibly. This is one of my most anticipated reads for 2024. It's my most anticipated new release, so I'm hoping to read this one like very, very soon. The next fiction that I got is I Hope This Finds You Well. This is an adult fiction, and these types of books are a little bit out of my comfort zone because I don't usually read like contemporary and literary fiction, but for some reason I've just been really in the mood to pick them up. This one I've heard kind of gives like The Office vibes because it follows our main character Jolene. Jolene is riddled with anxiety, depressed, and hates her coworkers. The less she knows about them, the better. So when a catastrophic IT F up grants her access to all of their emails and private messages, she's initially horrified. The last thing she wants is to be privy to their sad discussions about dying desk plants and marital troubles. That's until, with job cuts looming, she realizes the power this newfound knowledge gives her. But as she digs deeper and deeper into the private lives of her colleagues, Jolene uncovers a lot more than she bargained for, and the walls she'd so carefully built start crumbling down. It sounds like it's gonna be pretty wholesome. It sounds like it's gonna be pretty cozy, and I haven't watched The Office, but I know that it's a really like funny and wholesome show. So I'm very excited to read this one. I'm gonna say that I'm very excited for every single one of these books. Also, sorry for the lighting. It keeps going like in and out. But anyway, the next one I'm going to be reading very soon, and that is The Wedding People by Alison Espach. This one is a propulsive and uncommonly wise novel about one unexpected wedding guest and the surprising people who help her start anew. I am really wanting to do a video where I read wedding themed books for my wedding week and my honeymoon, and so this is one of the ones I'll be reading on that. This is another literary or contemporary, I'm not sure which one it is, but it's a fiction book, which is again out of my comfort zone. But like I said, I've just been kind of in the mood for those like cute, cozy, wholesome reads. Okay, the next genre that I'm going to be talking about is my mystery thriller genre, and this is my comfort zone. But surprisingly, I didn't get as many as I did romance and YA fantasy, oddly enough, or just fantasy in general, I guess. But the mystery thrillers that I did get are Lisa Gardner's Before She Disappeared and One Step Too Far. These are like technically a series, but I'm pretty sure you can read them as standalones. I got these 2 books when I was in Utah with Ashlyn and Ian back in June. I found these both at a used bookstore, which I was so hyped about. It pretty much just follows our main character. I forgot what her name was, but she like finds missing people. This one takes place in the woods, so I thought it'd be a really fun fall read. And since this one is just like the beginning of the series, I wanted to get both of them together. I have never read a Lisa Gardner book, but I feel like I have read pretty good things about them. And this one specifically I've had on my TBR for a while. The next little mystery thriller I have is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, I think is how you say that. This one Ashlyn actually gave to me. The little synopsis says, you wake up with no memory of the last few days. Your friends were killed in an accident that you miraculously survived. Your family has to move to another state to escape the fallout. You meet a mysterious boy who seems to know more about your past than you do. You start seeing things that can't possibly be there. You are afraid you are losing your mind. Can you keep it together? Mara Dyer is about to find out. So this is a little YA mystery thriller. I just really like YA mystery thrillers because I feel like they, for the most part, are never like too hard on my brain and they're never like too heavy. They're kind of just a good time. This one though, from the vibes of it, kind of seems like it might be a little bit darker, but I'm not totally sure. The next one that I have is Kala by Colin Walsh. This one I've heard kind of reads like a literary thriller, which I have never really heard. Like, I've read a few that kind of read more like literary or contemporary with like some suspense added into it, which I have been really enjoying lately. So this follows a group of friends, and one of their friends goes missing, and then 15 years later, human remains have been discovered in the woods, and 2 more girls have gone missing. As past and present begin to collide, the estranged friends are forced to confront their own complicity in the events that led to Kala's disappearance. I have heard that the multiple POVs do kind of make it a harder read, but I feel like if I know that it has multiple POVs going into it, then I'm more prepared to like do that shifting, you know? The next one that I got is one that I actually have already read, but I didn't have the physical copy of, and it was one of my favorite books of 2023, and that is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I love this book so much. If you are looking for the perfect, like, not like gothic-y, but kind of just like eerie, mysterious, nothing too like scary, but that like just like heart-racing type of fun mystery thriller, this one is your guy. This one follows our main character, who is pretty much like a home health aide. She takes care of the elderly like in their home, which is something that I used to do. So I feel like I already kind of had like a connection to our main character. She is on the cusp of losing her job. So there is one job opportunity that comes up for her to take care of this lady, but this lady is famous for being accused of murdering her family. So it kind of just follows our main character as she goes into this home and starts to take care of this woman, and she learns the real story of like what happened. Very interesting, lots of plot twists, very fast paced. I loved it. It was very fun for me. Okie dokie, so my next little stack that I have is my romance stack. The first one that I have is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is also one that I got when I was in Utah with Ashlyn and Ian back in June. I'm sure you probably already know what this is about, but if not, this one follows Harriet and Wynn, and they have been together for a very long time, and they are part of a friend group, and every year I believe they take a trip to some like cottage or something, but nobody knows that Harry and Wynn had actually broken up, so they kind of have to like pretend that they're still together on this last trip. Don't really know what else it's about. I started reading it at one point and then put it down because I think I was just reading too many books at once, or I just like wasn't in the mood for it, but I've heard amazing things about this book, and so I'm really excited to go into it. I did only start reading Emily Henry recently, and I've only read Funny Story and Beach Read so far, so I'm excited to get into like more of Emily Henry's books. The next one I have is Love and Gelato. This one was actually so kindly gifted to me. One of my fiance's friends, I met this couple who is Danny's friends at one of their friends' wedding, and I was just telling them how I read a lot and how I do booktube and all that stuff, and they literally went on my Amazon wishlist like at the wedding, and they bought me this book. And I was like, this is the sweetest thing ever. So they got me this one, and this one follows our main character, Lena. And Lena is spending the summer in Tuscany. She's only there because it was her mother's dying wish that she get to know her father. She's given a journal that her mom had kept when she lived in Italy. Suddenly, Lena's uncovering a magical world of secret romances, art, and hidden bakeries. A world that inspires her, along with the ever-so-charming Ren, to follow in her mother's footsteps and unearth a secret that has been kept for far too long. People come to Italy for love and gelato, someone tells her, but sometimes they discover much more. This one just looks really cute and wholesome. It's a little YA, I think it's like technically contemporary fiction romance type of thing, but I have always wanted to go to Italy, and I've been really in the mood for like adventurous, like traveling-ish type of books, so I thought that would be fun. The next one I got is one that I actually just recently got when I went to Portland for that booktubers trip, and that is Places We've Never Been. This is just a cute little YA like road trip romance following our main character Nora, and she's on a summer road trip. She's reconnecting with her childhood friend Skylar. Cue the RV filled with too many people and years of memories, and suddenly this trip isn't quite the vacation Nora was hoping for, especially when Skylar makes it clear he would rather be anywhere else. But Nora isn't one to give up without a fight, and as they travel from desert heat to mountain vista, sparks begin to fly between these two ex-best friends. After all, a connection like theirs doesn't just fade away. I love best friends to lovers, or just friends to lovers, especially in YA romances, like better than the movies, even though that was technically like rivals to lovers. It was so cute. So I'm just like hoping that this gives me like somewhat of the same feeling, even though I know it probably like won't live up to better than the movies, but at least it'll like give me that same like cute little giddy feeling, you know? The next one is one that I also just recently got when I was in Portland, and that is The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. Speaking of Lynn Painter and better than the movies, this one is another book by her. This one I think might be a tiny bit magical realism or something, but it follows our main character Emily, and Emily escapes to her grandmother's house for some much needed girl talk and companionship after a dumpster fire of a Valentine's Day. There, Emily passes out on the couch, but when she wakes up, she's back home in her own bed. That's not the only shocker though. though, somehow it's Valentine's Day again, and the next day, another disaster V-Day. It seems that Emily is stuck in some sort of time loop nightmare that she can't wake up from as she rewatches her boyfriend Josh cheat on her day after day. In addition to Josh's recurring infidelity, Emily can't get away from the enigmatic Nick, who she keeps running into, sometimes literally in unfortunate ways. How many days can one girl spend passively watching her life go up in flames? And when something good starts to come out of these terrible days, what happens when the universe stops doling out do-overs? I, again, loved Better Than the Movies so much, and ever since then, I've just been in the mood for like cute little YA romances, and I think this one has like a fun idea, although this one might be one that I read more in like January, February, because it is like a Valentine's Day book. Next, I have the Rom-Commers by Catherine Senner. This one follows our main character, what is her name? Emma, and she longs to be a screenwriter, so she has this opportunity to like screenwrite with one of her idols, I guess I would say, but he doesn't actually believe in love, so I think she's like trying to change his mind or something. I don't really know exactly what this is about, but I've also been wanting to get more into Catherine Senner's writing, and I've heard really, really good things about this one. The next one I have is One Star Romance, and this little sentence says, a struggling writer is forced to walk down the aisle at her best friend's wedding with the man who gave her book a very public 1-star rating in this fresh romantic comedy. I think it's so cute that this is like a bookish book, and so far I feel like I've seen pretty good things about it. It just looks cute, it looks funny. Oh, and this is also technically like a wedding themed book because part of it takes place at a wedding. Maybe I could read it for my wedding weekend. And then the last romance that I have is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I have not read an Abby Jimenez book yet. Don't hurt me. I do have Part of Your World on my shelf right now, and I wanted to start with that because I think this is like technically the third book in that series. What is up with all of these main characters being named Emma? This is her, she's Emma as well. But Emma feels like she's cursed because every single guy that she dates, they end up finding like their one after like they break up, I guess. And so this other dude feels the same way. So they end up dating because they think if they date, they'll break their curse. And then, as we probably could have guessed, they fall for each other or something. I don't really know, but it sounds really cute. I have heard pretty mixed things about this one so far, but for the most part, I've seen that it has really good ratings, and I'm just really looking forward to getting into Abby Jimenez's writing in general. Okie dokie, the last book stack that we have is my fantasy stack, and the first one I have is Vengeance of the Pirate Queen. This is in the series Daughter of the Pirate King. This is a very fun, like, summery, piratey YA fantasy, but this one follows, I believe, the main character in the first two books. I always forget what it's called. Is it like First Mate or like the right hand girl or whatever she's called? It follows her, and I did get the special edition of this one, so the map on the inside is so cool, and the actual cover has like this cool little Pirates of the Caribbean looking thing. Is it Pirates of the Caribbean or Pirates of the Caribbean? I've heard it two different ways, and I never know which way is like actually true. Anyway, also got Rune and Rising, which is the third book in the... Oh my gosh, what is it called? Shadow and Bone. I don't know why I just forgot about that. This is the third book in the Shadow and Bone series. I really liked the first one. Didn't love the second one, but I still like had a good time. So I don't really have high expectations for this one. I got it because when I read the first one, I was like, oh, I really like this, so I'm just gonna get the rest of the series. But then I read the second one and I didn't totally love the second one, so now I'm a little bit nervous for the third one. I do though really like the Grishaverse. I really like the world that Leigh Bardugo built in this book, or in this series, I guess. So either way, I feel like even if I don't love the plot, I guess, I still really enjoy this world and these characters. The next one I got is another one that I actually already read, but I didn't have the physical copy of it, and I really loved this book, and that is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. If you don't know what this one is about, it follows our main character, why did I forget her name? Theodora, which I think she goes by Dora in the book. But when she was younger, some like fairy king dude came and like stole half of her soul. This is also set in like the Regency era, and she, because she doesn't have half her soul, has a really hard time like being polite and like filtering herself when she talks. So that is like really hard for her as a socialite, you know? And then in comes Elias, who is Lord Sorcier, or whatever it's called. And he is just a very unpleasant man. Especially in this Regency era, he is very, how do I say this? Peculiar and utterly ill-mannered. That is how they explained him in the synopsis. But they meet, and he pretty much has a mission to like help her either rekindle her soul or just find like a cure for her. If her reputation can survive both her curse and her sudden connection with the least liked man in all high society, then she and her family may yet reclaim their normal place in the world. But the longer Dora spends with Elias, the more she begins to suspect that one may indeed fall in love even with only half a soul. I love this book so much. I didn't give it 5 stars because I feel like the plot itself had a few issues, you know? But the whole vibe, conversations, like everything, it was just so, it was one of those books that really just like hit you in the heart in like all the best ways. And I highly, highly recommend this book. Very cozy, very fall, It's a really good fall book. Next one that I have is Assistant to the Villain. I'm so excited for this one. This one's probably going to be on my September TBR because it just seems like a very fun like fall book. But this one follows Evie and she is seeking employment when a mishap with Renadon's most infamous villain results in a job offer. Naturally, she says yes. No job is perfect, of course, but even less so when you develop a teeny crush on your terrifying, temperamental, and undeniably hot boss. But just when she's getting used to severed head suspended from the ceiling and the odd squish of an errant eyeball beneath her heel, Evie suspects this dungeon has a huge rat. And not just a literal kind, because something rotten is growing in the kingdom of Renadon, and someone wants to take the villain and his entire nefarious empire out. Now, Evie must not only resist drooling over her boss, but also figure out exactly who is sabotaging his work, and ensure he makes them pay. After all, a good job is hard to find. I've heard this one is like a humorous, cozy little fantasy, and I've been very much in the mood for books like that lately. The next one that I have is The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love. This is one that I also recently just got when I was in Portland. This one, it just reminds me so much of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies because it follows our main characters who are both ornithologists, and just this little sentence on the top says, rival ornithologists hunt through England for a rare magical bird in this historical fantasy rom-com reminiscent of Indiana Jones, but with manners, tea, and helicopter parasols. I just love a good, funny, academic, romance, fantasy type of book. So this is like another one of my most anticipated reads. Next one I got is Dreadful, and I actually got the special edition of this one with the sprayed edges. It's so pretty! This one people have told me reminds them of Despicable Me and Princess Bride. The synopsis says it's bad enough waking up in a half-destroyed evil wizard's workshop with no eyebrows, no memories, and no idea of how long you have before the dread lord whomever shows up to murder you horribly and then turn your skull into a goblet or something. It's a lot worse when you realize that dread lord whomever is you. Gav isn't really sure how he ended up with a castle full of goblins or why he has a princess locked in a cell. All he can do is play along with his own evil plan in hopes of getting his memories back before he gets himself killed. But as he realizes that nothing from the incredibly tasteless cloak adorned with flames to the princess is quite what it seems, Gav must face up to all the things Dread Lord Gavrax has done, and he'll have to answer the hardest question of all. Who does he want to be? This just gives cozy, humorous Halloween vibes, so this is definitely going to be an October read. Next, we have A Sorceress Comes to Call, and this is the newest release by T. Kingfisher. I've never read their books before, but I do have The Defensive Wizard's Guide to Baking or something like that. This one, I'm not totally sure how to describe it. It's a dark retelling of the Brothers Grimm's Goose Girl. I've never heard of that, so I don't know if that resonates with anybody, but that's what Goodreads says. It seems like it's going to be a little bit of an emotional read, kind of. It seems like it's going to be a little bit of a darker gothic-y type of read, but also I feel like it's going to be kind of wholesome at the same time. Literally the light just keeps going in and out and in and out. The last one I have is Lovely War, and this one I also got when I was in Utah with Ashlyn and Ian. And I got this because Ashlyn convinced me in like 2 seconds to get this book. She said that it is in her like top 5, I think, of 2024 so far. In the perilous days of World Wars I and II, the gods held the fates and the hearts of 4 mortals in their hands. Hazel, James, Aubrey, and Colette, a classical pianist from London, a British would-be architect turned soldier, a Harlem-born ragtime genius in the US Army, and a Belgian orphan with a gorgeous voice and a devastating past. Their story, as told by goddess Aphrodite, who must spin the tale or face judgment on Mount Olympus, is filled with hope and heartbreak, prejudice and passion, and reveals that though war is a formidable force, it's no match for the transcendent power of love. It's magical, it's a little bit romantic, it's a little bit sad, it's historical. I feel like it's a little bit genre bending, which I think is really fun, and I've heard really good things about it so far. But guys, that is it for my, I almost said little book haul, but that definitely wasn't a little book haul. That is it for all the books that I've gotten in the last couple months. Let me know if there's any in my little stacks that you are also very excited for, or ones that you have already read and really enjoyed or did not enjoy. I love you all so much. I am going to be getting, like I said, I'm going to be getting my fall TBR out here pretty soon, which I feel like some of these are going to be on there. For now, I hope everybody has an amazing rest of their day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah. I'm gonna see if I can stack. This seems very dangerous. Okay, I should probably make sure they're all like straight before I do this. I feel like I'm playing Jenga. I'm literally terrified. Key is weight distribution. Okay, literally where am I gonna put these? I don't know.